Welcome to the Meltzone podcast. This is episode 72. I'm Tom.
And I'm Stefan. And it has already been a while, but I have reasons. So first we're going to talk just a tiny bit about a thing that recently happened to me. My PC crashed and what the reason was and why that caused quite a bit of upshake in my production schedule. Then a bit of talk about upcoming events. Sanjay Mortimer Rebrand Festival is happening in December. Formnext is in November. And I gonna be at some events. Tom is going to be at some events. So a bit talk about that in a second. Then first 3D printed salmon popping up in Austria, and I want to have some. So quick chat about that, and maybe also a couple of reasons why just printing existing food might not be the perfect thing, and why we might actually use this technology for interesting food we are currently not even thinking about. Then something really nice that happened for the Hangprinter project and just open source and the community in general. The Hangprinter project was successfully able to challenge the SkyBAM patent. So they are not able anymore to patent how a hang printer works. Then another topic which is just slightly connected to also patents. Bambu Mini is out. Just a bit of talk. Oh, not Bambu Mini. Bambu A1 Mini is out. Bit of talk, what it does, how it also affects just like the general market of 3D printers these days. Yeah.
And the market is definitely shifting as Caribou 3D is, reevaluating how it's doing business and shutting down its consumer-facing business. Prusa also struggling by having to sort of release a Prusa Mini input shaping demo that isn't quite ready. So we sort of chat about like what's going on there and how the market is changing over the last couple of months and years. There are also some changes that are being proposed in New York, where a 3D printer is now going to be treated like purchasing a firearm. So that's maybe good intents, but maybe a little misguided. We talk about the implications that might have worldwide. And sticking to that topic, 3D Print General's channel has been getting deleted, and Naomi Wu has been deplatformed essentially. And that is sending quite a few of the wrong messages. So maybe it's a good idea to have a backup plan.
Talking about backup. I should have done a backup. Because, oh man, we haven't been recording for a while. But I think 5-6 weeks ago, wanted to start working one morning, turned on my PC and just got a blue screen. And that's
scared. Quite the sinking feeling that you get, because not only do you know, this is going to be a ton of work to fix now, but it's also like, oh God, what did I lose?
Yeah. So maybe just a bit of background. I do have my Synology NAS, which I used in the past for editing, but I don't know, I think for the last 1.5 years, I've been editing most of my stuff directly from Google Drive, because it's the easiest way for me to sync between my studio and my office right here.
Right. It does become messy when you have like physically separate studios.
Yeah. It's the lazy way in a way, but it gave me always like the peace of mind that everything is stored in the cloud.
Yeah, so at least the video files.
Yeah, at least the video files.
Still a lot of stuff that isn't backed up.
So yeah, the blue screen, couldn't boot Windows anymore, couldn't repair it anymore. At some point, just slapped in an old SSD and reinstalled Windows, which is nowadays super easy, which is kind of a nice thing.
Oh yeah, the install is easy.
Install is easy.
Getting everything like just working is fine, but then you've got all your setup to do after that, all your software, all your logins, all your stuff.
Yeah. So what actually happened was, and everyone out there who also uses Samsung SSDs, so there is the Samsung 980 Pro 2 terabyte SSD.
Yeah.
It has a firmware bug. So if you bought it, I bought mine like 1.5 years ago or something like that. A good year ago, actually. It has a firmware bug, and after just on mine 20 terabytes of writing, it just goes into read-only mode and wouldn't let you write anything anymore. Which also means that you can't boot Windows anymore, which is kind of a pain.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a firmware problem. In the past, I used Samsung Magician, but for a decade, nothing happened with my SSDs. And I was just always really annoyed with the pop-up window from Samsung Magician. Oh, there's a new version of Magician available. So I didn't install it anymore. If I would have done that, it would have told me already like half a year ago, when also I think Samsung realized that something's wrong with their SSDs, that there's a firmware bug and there's a new firmware version now that I could have installed, which would have prevented my problem. But yeah, if you have an old Samsung 980 Pro SSD, I think just a 2 terabyte version, maybe even with the old ones, check if there's a firmware update available.
Yeah, there's like specific versions made in Thailand or something that are affected. But yeah, just Google it. There's plenty guides out there.
Yeah. So
you weren't using Synology Active Backup for Business or any of these solutions that are available.
No. So most of my stuff was saved, and I could even recover the things that were on the SSD after a while. But the thing that I was missing was my DaVinci Resolve database. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had basically everything, just all my old project files were missing. And usually in the past, I exported my projects always at the point when I just uploaded a video. But I've been lazy, I don't know, over the last year, didn't always do it. So especially for the more recent videos, the project files were missing, which might not sound too bad, but since I want to translate my videos into German, not having a project file would mean that I need to do redo everything again.
It's the project file itself of the database, even though it's not much data per se. That's almost as much work as the rest of the video footage itself. That's where all your editing effort is stored.
Yeah. So yeah, that was gone. Okay, but fortunately, I was able to clone the old SSD and at some point restore the master boot record, which was bad, and yada yada yada. So I was able to restore everything.
So that's what I would have suggested. Just grab an SSD cloning tool and clone it onto a new drive. If it's read only, then everything should be there. But that didn't work.
It did. So I think at the day when I realized that I'm not able to use the SSD anymore, I purchased exactly the same model again. Cloned it.
I probably wouldn't do that if I just had an SSD fail. I probably wouldn't buy the exact same one again. But yeah,
well,
they fixed it. So
they fixed it. In Samsung, I trust. We trust. So I was able to clone the SSD after a while, but the problem was that the master boot record was just like broken, and this is just not something that I do every day. So after, I think, downloading and paying for 3 different recovery tools, one of them was actually able to repair my master boot record, and I was actually able to boot into my old Windows installation again and export the video database, which made me happy again. But it still was like 2, 3, 4 days of work that I lost because I was digging around trying to get things working again, which was a nice reminder to regularly back up my stuff in the future. I think that was kind of the lesson for me, especially if it's things that you really need to work.
Yeah, and typically, I mean, with SSDs, you don't worry about failure as much anymore. Whereas with a hard drive, you knew, hey, eventually it's just going to crap out. Eventually, it's going to head crash or whatever. So I need to have a backup. With SSDs, you just don't get that. They in the beginning, everyone was worried about like, oh, I'm going to write this thing to death. It only has 200 terabytes write total, and then it's going to die. But I've been mistreating my SSDs, and I've not managed to run one. Well, okay, that's not quite correct. I've managed to run a Samsung 830 64 gigabyte into the ground. That is at 1%.
Okay.
But that's like a 10-year-old SSD that has seen like a 60 gigabyte SSD, 64. Yeah. That's seen some abuse, so that's dead. But everything else, every modern SSD, really, you can't ruin.
Yeah. The problem is that they usually fail and are dead. You don't get like indications of a weird sounding hard drive before head crash, which might give you an indication. Okay, I should maybe back up my stuff now. They're just from one day to another, they're gone.
Yeah, well, if it's controller failure, which is probably how these things fail most likely, then they are gone. If they fail from just the actual DRAM, the actual flash storage running out of write cycles, then they do go into a read-only mode typically. Yeah. So same as you had, which was the controller basically bugging out and saying, hey, I've written too much, even though it didn't. And just saying, okay, I'm not going to let you write anymore because then we're really going to have an issue. I'm going to stop you there. So typically you get that read-only state.
Talking about abuse. So at least you don't have any fighting bandages anymore.
I was thinking about just making a short like how to make soap. But I'm too much going on. That would have been fun, but it really would have just been messing around, just some fun stuff. Bike crash. I don't know. It looks worse on video than it does. It looks still very beat up, but that does put you out of commission too. I mean, either an SSD crash or a bike crash. When you've got two bandaged up hands that you can't use. That stops you from doing anything useful. That was but I don't want to say stupid on my side because really there's nothing I could have or would have done differently, but
just admit it, you were too fast.
I was not. We were on a very chill bike ride actually. We were doing like 20, which is very, very slow on a road bike. I had freshly serviced my bike. The chain was like glossy and clean, and I checked my tires. I'm running like 32 millimeter tires on my road bike now, which is super fat for a road bike. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna be a good cyclist. I'm gonna use the bike path that is now freshly built for cyclists that you can use instead of using the regular countryside road. And it turns out that bike path was freshly sanded, freshly graveled, and it just looked like perfect asphalt. It was not. It was slippery as ice, and it's just like you can feel your bike giving out, and the only thing you think is like, this is gonna hurt. There's nothing I can do about it. And then you stop yourself with your hands, and then you're like, oh, bonk, guess my head's kind of heavy, and you hit your chin, and like your entire side is bruised, and yeah.
So you were the first of your group, or?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
My two buddies managed to, well, not drive on that bike path. They just they managed to slow down. But yeah, that was a quick trip to the ER. One stitch in the chin, which is already out now, and just my hands bandaged up. Yeah, it was actually exactly 2 weeks ago now.
Okay.
Sucks, but it is what it is.
Well, at least you didn't break your collarbone.
Oh yeah, that's
shoulder
easy to
thing
do.
Or something, which often happens with crashes like this.
Yeah.
So better some bruises than really something broken.
Yeah, never broken anything in my life.
No, yeah,
thankfully.
You just talked about short videos, and even though if that would have blown up, I recently checked. I have one viral viral short video, which has 6.4 million views.
Is that much for a short?
It is. It's probably not really much,
There's
but
different rules there.
Yeah. Guess how much I made with 6.4 million views?
I'm gonna guess 260 euros.
26 euros 81 cents.
Oh, just off by one factor of magnitude. Okay.
Yeah, shit. Oh man.
But think about all the subscribers that he gained.
7,100.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty
Pretty
good for one video. Yeah.
That's for an outside viewer worth way more than the $26. But yeah, as we often see it, if we are long format creators, these subscribers that you're gaining with short form content usually don't translate into views on your regular videos.
Well, here's the thing, do they end up hurting you as a channel if they come to you, they subscribe from a short and they want to see more of that, and then they have to watch the long form stuff and they unsubscribe on those videos again? I mean,
Maybe.
that's going to send a negative signal to the algorithm on those longer videos.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Could be.
The ways of the Lord are mysterious. I've used that phrase before we started recording already. Yeah.
So yeah, even though it might have been fun doing a shorts video, the question is that good for your business? Probably not. But
we're going to talk a bit more about the YouTube algorithm in a bit.
yeah, but before that, business-related stuff. I've just seen today that you're gonna be at SMRFF, Sanjay Mortimer Rebrand Festival in the UK at the first weekend of December.
That is correct. I'm actually currently signed up as a gold sponsor. That is to finally fulfill my commitment of donating. What was it? The buck for every 1,000 views on the channel in December 2021. And just due to like tax stuff and accounting stuff, I couldn't do that yet. I couldn't fulfill that promise yet. And this is the opportunity. This is the donation that I'm going to make. So,
You're a smart guy.
I know.
You're a smart guy.
I know. Thank you.
Because I donated my 1,000-something euros, I think, at the end of last year. And this is not tax deductible because the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation is not a non-profit in Germany, accepted non-profit in Germany. So it was just like all out of my own pocket. But now it's for you. It's tax deductible since you're a sponsor.
I'm a sponsor and I'm getting advertisement for it. So I'm getting a half-page A5 print ad. I've got a booth essentially. If I wanted 4 by 2.5 meters, I'm getting I think screen time on some of the screens on location.
Okay.
If I want to, so it is channel advertising, channel branding, and it's still going towards the Sanjay Mortimer the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation.
Yeah.
So it's going towards the same cause. Yeah. You paid out of pocket for you did the same thing. You paid you paid for it out of your own personal pocket, which means essentially you gave twice as much, which I respect. I was like, well, it's like you are giving twice as much, but the amount received is not twice as much. So
yeah, unfortunately. So from a tax perspective, your move is way better. But in the end, it's good that we both now finally did what we committed to 1.5 years ago.
Bad for waiting so long to get this done, but like I said, it just didn't make sense to pay out of pocket for this. But yeah, the Sanjay Mortimer Rebrand Foundation Festival. Oh god, these names are getting ridiculous. East Coast Rebrand Festival actually just rebranded. They're what are they called now?
Yes. Nothing with rebranding, something with printing.
Print convention, core. No, print core is a different thing. They rebranded. You can look that up real quick. But yeah, I'm gonna be at the Sanjay Mortimer RepRap Festival in the UK. It's going to be in Oxford in the examination halls of the Oxford University. That's going to be the 2nd and 3rd of December this year. I think it's going to be a rather small event from the looks of it. The convention area isn't huge, and it's a first time event, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very cozy venue essentially. But yeah, I've not booked anything yet. I've not booked any plane tickets, hotels yet, but I'm what's the term? I am planning to attend.
That's good. Printopia, 3D Printopia is actually the rebrand of the East Coast RepRap Festival. Which stupid me forgot that it was on the same weekend as I flew back home from Seattle. So
yeah, like I asked you, like, hey, cool, you're going to the East Coast RepRap Festival, and you were like, no,
I'm going to San Francisco, and I was in Seattle. So I was in Seattle
close enough.
2.5 weeks ago, for my normal job, visiting Boeing. And my first plan was to stay a couple of days longer to meet up with Joel, maybe to drive by Protopasta, but then with just like our internal travel booking agency from the company, it would have been a pain because I would have they would have paid me the flight to Seattle, but at the point where I said, okay, I want to do my stuff now, I would have had to pay everything out of my own pocket, including like the flight back home. Well, anyway, so I just said, okay, I just gonna go back home with my colleagues. But then they booked, and then just I think a week before we left, I realized, shit, East Coast RepRap Festival is just at the same weekend. I'm flying back home. And I've never been there. I always wanted to go there, and I've basically been in the same country and flying back home Friday to Germany.
The States is pretty big, so that's excusable.
Yeah, but yeah, I missed that. So kind of upsetting, but yeah. Sanjay Mortimer. No, sorry. Sanjay Mortimer RepRap Foundation Festival. No, festival. Sanjay Mortimer RepRap Festival. That's the right term. Yeah. Happening in December. There are, even though it might not be that big, if visitors are interested, there are tons of creators showing up, which is really nice. And I'm also planning to go there.
I'm just noticing there's now an extra row of creators on the website. Yesterday it was like one row less. So 3D Print Bunny, Patent to Print, Steve Builds. I think they've just been added to the list. You've also got Joel Telling, Vector 3D, Zach Friedman, James Bruton, Proper Printing, a whole bunch of other folks. Photos Mint, Wexter, Alley Cats. Tons of people are going to be there.
So I think it's not going to be that small. I don't know how they are limiting, if they're limiting the number of visitors and what that number is. But I think it's still going to be nice. And Oxford is a nice city.
I've never been to Oxford proper. I've just I think E3D have taken me through a drive through Oxford once. And I've been to E3D, but I've never been to Oxford, actually. Yeah. It looks like it's like very, very densely packed area where the event's going to be. So I briefly considered just renting a car as you would in the States. But then you realize, well, you can drive through there, but you can't drive to there. You can't park anywhere. So you'd have to park like 2 kilometers outside the event to even get there. Yeah. So I think I'm going to do the fly to London, grab a hotel in walking distance of the event, and just walk. Yeah. Be a pedestrian.
Yeah, so my wife is probably going to join me. And
so just to be clear, you're going too?
I'm very certainly going as well. My wife still had to ask at her school if it's okay to leave that Friday a little bit earlier, because there was an event. But yeah, I think I'll probably book flights this week. We're also flying to London Heathrow.
Yeah.
We might actually take the same flight in the end, and then just take a train or the bus to Oxford, which is an hour drive.
That's what E3D are suggesting as well. Take the bus, take the train, or take the taxi cab. I think they're called in the UK, which goes by a car. So I don't know. Maybe we can figure something out there.
Definitely.
So you pay per car. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Of course, it's taxi.
So yeah, that's happening first weekend of December, but in November there's another big event happening, which is not that much consumer centric, but it's the biggest 3D printing exhibition I think worldwide. Formnext is happening in Frankfurt again. I'll also very certainly will be there. Have you thought about going there, or?
So I've had 3 or 4 companies asking me, "Hey, am I going to see you at Formnext already?" And every time I've replied like, "Yeah, nah, it's a bit too B2B and trade showy for me to be of interest." And have I been to Formnext? I think I've been to Formnext once or twice. And yeah, that's what it's been. But I feel like there's a bit of a shift going on with the event, that it's more consumer printing as well.
Yeah, I think lots of like the smaller consumer grade printers are going to be there as well. And a couple of years ago, basically, there was nothing like that. So
one little corner where you had everyone.
Yeah. So Prusa's gonna be there, Creality, eSun, tons of filament manufacturers.
Well, those are the companies that have always been to those B2B shows. The thing is just I don't enjoy the atmosphere and the style of show, even if it's like, hey, we've got this corner or this half a hall for like consumer stuff. It's always just this, everyone gets a little booth and it's just like, hey, you've got your suit and tie people, and I don't know, it feels like very forced, and yeah.
That's in the end one of the reasons why I usually enjoy being at US events, and especially Rebrand or maker events, because it's not as... In Germany, we say, nicht so viel Stock im Arsch, not so polite is the wrong word.
I think the saying works in English as well. You've got to stick up your...
But
yeah, do we need to set an explicit tag here? I don't know.
So, yeah, it's weird. I still enjoy being there, especially with my like professional background in 3D printing. And it's also an opportunity to meet a ton of people, which I just like rarely see, be it other YouTubers, other creators, or just other companies, and connect with them. So,
yeah, what I wanted to say about the Smurf, that not a very fortunate name, the Sanjay Mortimer Rep Rap Festival. I don't think I care about like all the creators that are there. I think it's so, even with Rep festivals in the States, it's always been about just people showing their stuff, people showing what they're doing. I don't care about Halo folks that are just like, oh, I've got 1 million subscribers. Not that I'm sort of you've got more subscribers than me. Like that has nothing to do with it, but. Congrats on the 500,000, by the way.
Thank you.
But like, I want to see what people do. The stuff that YouTubers show, I've already seen. If I care about it, I've already seen on YouTube. I want to see the stuff that you don't typically see, and I think that's what those smaller shows and events are better at bringing out.
And that's probably a good opportunity to see something different, as you would usually see at Murph or Earth, because if you've been there like once or twice, you know many of the exhibitions, and they're just there every year. Having now again such an event in the UK just gives the opportunity to other like UK based creators to show off their stuff. So yeah, of course, that's going to be interesting. This is also one of the reasons I'm really upset. I plan to be at Tokyo Maker Fair, which was last weekend. And I've just seen pictures and footage from there, and it's just so different to what I have seen in like on German shows or in US shows, because just the craftsmanship of Japanese people, it's just different. They have a different approach. They're funny robots and craftsmanship, and
exactly.
I was so upset not being there.
You think it's all the same community. You're online, you're networked, you see all this stuff, but then you actually go to a different culture, especially when there's a language barrier, especially when there's like a subculture of people speaking a different language. It's always so fascinating to see how they do things and what they come up with.
Talking about subculture, people who don't want to eat meat made from living organisms. In Vienna, you can now buy 3D printed salmon.
Yeah.
Was that a good segue?
I was gonna go for the sponsor spot here, but
sorry,
we're gonna do the salmon topic first. Yeah, because we are gonna pivot towards actually talking about 3D printers in a second here. Yeah. We've talked about 3D printed meat alternative products in the past here on the podcast, because first of all, I think it's a good thing that we have to harvest fewer animals. Yeah. And also, it's just new tech. Like, I'm always excited about new tech, even if it's weird and maybe not the greatest thing. So yeah, we've now got a printed salmon that actually sort of looks like salmon. I think that's the intent.
Yeah. And it's not made from lab-grown meat. They use what they write, mushroom protein.
Hopefully they don't have any shrooms in there. But yeah.
But I find it really nice. I think, especially in such a case, 3D printing can give you an anisotropic texture of the meat, and with just like layering red stuff and white stuff, you have this fat meat texture, which is one of the things that people who enjoy eating meat is what they like to feel in their mouth and when they're eating it, and what gives like real meat one of its benefits, because it's you could do the same nutritional thing with just a gray goo,
right. You've got your,
but it's not as fun.
You've got all your ready to drink meal shakes, which are, I mean, they're legit. I've got a couple bags of Plenty Shake around. When my fridge is empty, I just grab one of those because they're a balanced meal. They're not very exciting, but yeah, if you want something that is a bit more exciting to eat, then this can be an alternative, especially because like salmon, wild salmon and stuff is not the most sustainable thing. It has a ton of side effects on the ecosystems that they're being extracted from. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, first of all, yeah, this is something that is trying to replicate an existing food product. What I'm really excited about is like, once these companies are like, hey, we don't have to replicate something, we can create something entirely new that has some awesome stuff, that has some awesome properties that might be exciting in different ways to eat. Speaking of which, we recently made kimchi. Which also was quite exciting to eat. Bubbly cabbage.
So you did really ferment it and not just like put into a soda stream and infuse it with CO2.
No. Actual fermented. So of course we have sauerkraut here in Germany. But kimchi is a tiny bit different. You chuck some extra stuff in there. We also did some fermented tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. Also quite interesting. You get the sour, but like that sort of thing that our culture isn't really doing typically. But then you're like, hey, there's some other stuff that could also be cool and you can do it. And if you've got this 3D printed stuff that now just has a repertoire of things that it can create, maybe there's some awesome stuff hidden there that's not trying to just be a piece of salmon.
Yeah, you're right there. Well, but on the other hand, we had Coca-Cola. So when I was in Seattle, we had Coca-Cola, and the flavor was called, I don't know what the flavor was called, but it just stated co-created with AI. It was horrible.
Well, okay.
Maybe the problem was that it wasn't out of the fridge, but the taste was just really weird. We suspected that this was just a bad batch from the Coca-Cola factory, and they thought, oh shit, we need to relabel it. Let's put co-created with AI on it, and you can just sell it everywhere.
Imagines year 3000 with new futuristic flavor and AI-powered experience.
Is it from the Coca-Cola website?
That is Coca-ColaCompany.com, yeah.
Okay.
On the Creations Hub. Yeah, I mean, not everything AI is necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
But you experiment, right?
Yeah.
You experiment with things, and some stuff isn't going to be good, but some stuff might just be so good that it sticks around.
Yep.
Speaking of new stuff, this is the segue to today's sponsor, and this is actually an exciting one. And the sponsor for today's episode is Peopoly and their Magneto X 3D printer. So,
yeah. I think what they're definitely making differently is their actuation system, because they are the first manufacturer that put linear motors on their 3D printer. So no bells anymore, no complicated system with pulleys and everything.
Forget about Core XY. It is really just, you've got a motor, it pushes an axis. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's a linear motor. It is also a closed loop system, which means it's basically a servo drive. So skipped steps aren't going to happen, or if they do happen, then it can transparently correct for it. This is a fully high-end printer. It's got a load cell, it's got a filament sensor, it's got an all-metal hot end, metal frame. It's basically checking all the boxes, but yeah, the linear motors are really what sets this thing apart.
And in the past, linear motors were just... So linear motors existed, for example, in pick-and-place machines, because they're very, very accurate, very fast, high accelerations, but they were just not affordable. And Peopoly, they were able to just make linear motors that are affordable. So the pre-orders for that machine were $1,400 for a machine with a build volume of, Tom, I think you can help me there.
400 by 300 by 300 millimeters, and has 4 independently driven Z-axis, so it does use those for leveling.
Yeah.
It runs Clipper. It has a 7-inch touchscreen. It supports Orca Slicer, so it has profiles out of the box. Orca Slicer, Pusher Slicer, Cura. That's all included. Also, 1080p high definition camera is built in. That's one of the things that I guess you can just chuck in there, and you get the features of that as well. Since it does have not an x86, but it does have a Linux system built in if it's running Clipper. They do also, which I think is great, they do also sponsor Octoprint and Orca Slicer and Clipper. The tools that they're using, they're contributing back. Fantastic. Yeah.
If you want to print like high temp materials, you can even get an enclosure for it, which is
right. It has that top enclosure that you put over all the filament guides and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
I think this is just a horribly exciting technology, and I'm super stoked that they went all in and were able to make a 3D printer with linear motors for such an affordable price. And if you guys are also interested, you can check out the link down in the description. There's more info on the Magneto X. Pre-orders are not available anymore, but you can sign up to a notification list once the machine is available for sale. And I think they're planning to start shipping it in November.
what I really like about it is that it's not a closed system. Like the nozzle is swappable, the software is all open source, and you can use it as you wish. It's not like locking you into any proprietary parts. So
Yes.
yeah, check them out in the link below. And thanks again to Peopoly and their Magneto X 3D printer for sponsoring this episode.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe just a bit of insight, a bit of inside talk right here for you listeners out there. I actually talked to them just recently because they got lots of questions from other people asking if just the linear motors might be available to just purchase separately. They are thinking about that. They are trying to figure out how that could work because it's a bit more involved with the linear motors because you can't just easily scale them up. But they might be working on that as well.
Yeah, and you do have to have like the set length. There's no belt that you can just shorten on these.
Yeah, exactly. So this is one of the problems. So
I guess you could cut them down.
Yeah.
Angle grinder cuts everything. Joel made some experience with that.
Yeah, but I guess depending on how they are, how they do the encoder measurement, it might not be as easy. So sure. I was actually asked what would be a suitable size for these linear motors, which many might be interested in. And I thought about that as well. Do you want to build a 300 by 300 printer out of it? Would you want to have it rather a bit bigger? Should shorter be the right size to have not a ton of masses moving around? Do you have input? Maybe you listeners have input. Might be an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah, intuitively thinking about this, my guess would be with longer axes you have bigger benefits because you're skipping the elasticity of the belt, and with longer axes also you have prints that take longer, so the closed loop system gives you a bigger benefit. Because if you skip a step, you're now ruining a 20-hour print instead of one that's just 1 hour.
Yeah.
So I think the longer lengths are better choices for these motors. And yeah, this is a rather big printer, 300 by 400. Yep. I'm getting one. I've been told I'm getting one sometime soon. And I'll be checking it out on the Made with Layers channel.
Yeah,
which we haven't talked about the rebrand, but
yeah, we should talk about that in a second. That's really cool. That's actually. So the Magneto X was one of the things why I was really upset not being at ERF this year, because they showed it there and this was just one of the things that was new, and I would really have liked to see and also talk with the guys from Peopoly about what the advantages are and maybe also what disadvantages come with that system besides just the price.
Yeah, well, Joel did a video, if I remember correctly, interview with him. So maybe that answers some of those questions.
Yeah, channel rebrand. Made with layers.
I've got the neon sign is right there, and I've turned it off because I would be completely blue in the face. Made with layers, finally talked about for way too long. I initially started the idea of rebranding with this logo at the first studio that I moved into. Then I moved out of that studio. I did a year here. Then I moved into the next studio. Then I moved out of that studio again. And now I'm back home. And this is the rebrand that's happening. Yeah. Made with layers, basically sort of permitting myself to do a bit more non-3D printery project stuff that, maybe doesn't focus on the 3D printer itself as much, but just use them as the tool they are intended to be. I'm still doing 3D printer stuff. Like last video was about the input shaping on the Prushas, but just I enjoy doing other stuff as well every now and then.
Well, you have a ton of tools at home, and I think one of the great things about just the tools that we have at hand nowadays is that we can do so much interesting stuff with it if you know how they work, if you know how they're programmed, and how to combine them in a meaningful way.
Yeah. It's, of course, now I've got the issue of if I want to do projects that are so big that it's going to take me like 2 months to complete. If I do just what I want to do, I'm going to become Stuff Made Here, essentially, where there's a video maybe every 6 months or not, who knows, but that involves lots of iterations and lots of manufacturing and stuff that I don't know if I can commit to. I don't know if I'm at the size where I can just say, yeah, I'm just not going to release anything for 2 months, 3 months. So
I would love to do that as well. I am scared about the impact that has, and if in the end, I don't know, I can still pay the bills. Exactly. On the other hand, I have a huge problem with procrastination, and if I would know that I don't have to finish this in like a week or something, I would do other stuff. That's my big problem, and I would also like to transition a bit more in that direction, but I don't know how it would really work out with my workflow.
Yeah. I just find it more satisfying to every now and then do something a bit bigger than just a video that has to be done in 2 weeks. Yeah. Because that cuts you down so much in what you can achieve, what you can produce.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's my thing. What I live off of is content, is videos. Like I have to produce content. It's not I'm not selling projects. I'm not building something like Four Eyes Furniture. Four Eyes is a channel. He's building furniture and he's also selling that furniture and he's making some money off of that furniture. Mm-hmm. Then the YouTube video is sort of, yes, the main project, the main thing that he's doing it for, but also he's got a product that he's making. I don't have a product that I'm then selling and monetizing. My product is the video, so I have to produce videos. Period. And there's got to be some balance there, but I'm hoping to shift it towards more of a doing some creative stuff as well.
Is for you now the channel transition already over, because it's still like Thomas Sanladra made with layers? The channel logo is still your face there. Will you transition even more, or is that for you already?
More. No, okay. No. So currently, I don't think you can just snap from one day to the other and just be like, hey, my name's gone now. Everybody knows my name who's been watching my stuff, I hope. And they're still going to be searching for it. So I've still got my name in there and then the new name in there, because here, let me introduce you to this. Then eventually I'm going to flip it around and it's going to be Made with Layers / Thomas Sanladra. And then maybe one day I'll just erase my name from it entirely.
Yeah.
And logo, I don't know if it matters. I don't think it matters much. But I do try and use my graphics just for recognizability.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, congratulations on that. So we talked about that in the past. You were scared. You were a bit scared that this is gonna hurt the channel. Looking at your last couple of videos and the things that you did, I don't have the impression that they performed any worse.
It's been doing all right, yeah.
Contrary, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but of course I am doing a very slow transition, so
yeah. Maybe just a quick chat. Do you already have access to the YouTube ABC thumbnail tester?
I don't think I do.
I should try that out. I think I got a notification in YouTube Studio, but I do have access now to the ABC testing in YouTube Studio, which is really nice because you upload 3 different thumbnails and it checks them in a different way than TubeBuddy does. So if you're using, for example, TubeBuddy, it will upload or change a thumbnail every day. And then depending on the click-through rate and other metrics, it tries to determine which one is the best.
So for one day, all the viewers, everybody sees that one thumbnail, and the next day everybody sees a different thumbnail.
So since YouTube is YouTube and has all the tools, they are simultaneously showing a lot of different viewers different thumbnails, and I think this is especially interesting in the first couple of hours and the first couple of days of a video being uploaded, getting that info which thumbnail works the best, because especially in the beginning, YouTube always tries to shuffle around which is the right target audience for your for the video. And if you think a thumbnail is performing better just because it's at another day, it might already be the YouTube algorithm might already have been showing it to a totally different audience, and that's the reason why your click-through rate is different. So
this might be just some elite tool for now that the bigger channels get, but
bigger.
I don't have it, so I guess the big channels get the better tools to help them grow more. Well, I've got my own tools for now. I've written some stuff myself that does some A/B testing, even during the first couple the first couple hours after release. That just tries it and reports back to me like, hey, this thumbnail's been doing this well. Not as elegant as what YouTube's going to be able to do, but it's just, I mean, the optimization, right? The more you can optimize, the better. Speaking of optimization, one company that didn't optimize very well is Ornl, ORNL, who tried to patent the Hangprinter, essentially.
Oak Ridge National Laboratory.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Hangprinter essentially is, I've covered it on the channel before, and I think my content has also been a part of why this patent ultimately got rejected. The Hangprinter basically is a printer that has 3 sets of wires that change in length, and then you have a tool head that moves around based on those 3 wire lengths. And Torbjørn Ludvigsen is the original inventor, I guess, of this concept, or the one who built a working printer from this, where I saw it the first time and the internet saw it for the first time. I covered it on the first Sweden 3D printing meetup, and it worked. It's a really cool concept. We then went on to build one at Trinamic in Hamburg, which was a super cool project. And then eventually the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, what's it called?
Oak Ridge National Laboratory.
Exactly.
Acronyms are not something for me today.
They patented the SkyBAM, what they're calling it, which is essentially a hang printer, just bigger. So this is one of those few cases where an independent or a smaller guy, Torbjørn Ludvigsen, he's just one person essentially, plus a lawyer, managed to overthrow a patent that has already been granted. So he went to the U.S. Patent Office and filed a complaint, an ex parte re-examination request, and he managed to push through it and got that patent overturned, which is a good thing. Like, patents, sure, they're part of what the landscape is now, but the fact that it is possible to overthrow patents that have been apparently illegitimately granted, being able to overthrow that is a good thing. The fact that it was granted in the first place sucks. Like, there should have been more checks in place. But yeah.
Yeah. Good for the Hangprinter project. That's really nice.
Well, look, I mean, it's not just
only that,
good for the Hangprinter project. It's good for the landscape of innovation. Like, if you're trying to just patent somebody else's work, and you get away with it, then that's not good for anyone except for the company who got away with it.
No.
So yeah, the system sometimes does work, even though it's like this was a ton of effort. So this was 3,500 euros in fees for the US Patent Office. Then 5.5 grand for a lawyer. Yeah, thankfully covered by a crowdfunding campaign from Torbjörn, where he did cover those costs. But yeah, it is an expensive process. So easily 10 grand down the drain just to fight an illegitimate patent.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Nice.
Yeah. But so good that it's been overthrown.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, patents. I mean, yeah. Let's keep going. The
Bambu Lab, not X1, A1 Mini has been released. Also with a bunch of patents on it, as Dr. Tao told me during an interview we recently had. But yeah, even though Bambu Lab said no more bad slingers, their first, like, I wouldn't say successor to the popular X1. But their latest, it's not really a successor. It's targeting a different audience, but it's their next printer that is really different. Is a bat slinger. It's Bambu. It's not a Bambu. It's a Prusa Mini. Just a bit nicer, or many compare it to Prusa Mini, but it actually looks very similar to a Cetus.
Yeah, look, it's obviously a very direct dig at the Prusa Mini, as Bambu's products have, even the P1P and DX1 have been quite direct competitors to that line of printers. But it also happens to be like a nice market segment, where you have this is a lower cost machine. P1Ps, X1s have been like a mid-range prosumer sort of thing. It does slot in. The Prusa Mini wasn't the first printer that did that. It is also based on other designs. So obviously that's a very direct comparison that you could make, but it's not a Prusa Mini clone at all.
No, not at all. But it's targeting the audience that bought Prusa Minis before, and I think the Prusa Minis have been quite popular machines, especially in print farms, because they were kind of reliable, integratable, and just in general good machines. But they were still like $500, and the A1 now starting without the AMS Mini, or how it's called, AMS Lite, at $299. Even though I think they're still sold out, and you're not even able to order them. But yeah, they are selling that thing for $300, which is $200 below a Prusa Mini, or even more, I think, nowadays. So yeah, they definitely want to take that market share from Prusa very, very badly.
Yeah.
But
I'm just checking, like, you cannot buy the Mini right now. It's you can
Prusa Mini or the A1?
Sorry, the Bambu Labs A1 Mini.
Yeah.
Not available. You can buy it for not available for 319 euros, which I assume is including tax. DE shipping. So you can, however, buy it with the AMS Lite for 489.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic value, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's coming out. Does that have input shaping? I would assume it does.
It does.
Yeah.
So one thing that I find really interesting about the machine, what they, in my opinion, do differently to everyone else, but I think Prusa could do that as well. They have kind of a nozzle force measuring system. So they do pressure advance calibration using a nozzle sense force.
So closed loop pressure advance.
Not closed loop. They are, before a print starts, they are extruding material in like
Right.
intervals out of the nozzle, and I think measuring kind of the extrusion force. And
So they're characterizing essentially what the nozzle is, how the nozzle is behaving, and then they're using that. Okay.
That's what I find really smart. I really dig that. And as I said, as I already said on the Mark IV, I really like the nozzle force sensor because, in my opinion, it opens, especially in the direction of quality control, a ton of opportunities. But at that point, I didn't think about the fact that you could use it also, for example, to do such a calibration. But if you think about it, it's quite logical. So kudos there.
And it's, these sort of algorithms really, you have the compute power for them. Yeah. Like there's no reason not to use them, right?
Yeah.
Probably you don't need the real-time measurement, but if you can chuck it in there, if you can use a sensor that's already in there anyway, perhaps used for some other thing, then So it also says it has active noise canceling for the motors. Which
people were suspecting that this is something like you have a speaker on the inside which does real active noise cancellation.
Yeah, which is what active noise cancelling would be.
Yeah. I think it's a similar marketing BS than the LiDAR sensor, which isn't really a LiDAR sensor. They are, I think, backfeeding the motor noise into the motor system using the motor drivers, and therefore get rid of motor noise. If this is in a way similar what TMC does with just a smoother sine wave curve, is something that I don't know, but they're kind of backfeeding something to the stepper motors to remove the stepper motor noise.
The A1 Mini can calibrate parameters to match tiny individual differences between each drive motor. This compensates for the unwanted harshness of motor noise. So yeah, what you are starting to see with firmwares is precise step timing, which is, I think, also what the 5.0 firmware on the pushes is doing. Where essentially it's making sure that the step signals come at a more precise timing, so you're getting less a noise that is less harsh overall from the printer. So this kind of sounds like that. Could also be just, hey, we're optimizing the parameters of the stepper drivers.
I do have to say, the thing is, you can't really hear it when it's running, besides a couple of fan noise. And the X1 and the P1P, they just have been way louder. Of course, some of the noise is probably just coming from the resonances of the housing, but it's just way more pleasant to be next to that machine. So that's it. The thing that I found interesting, funny, and which kind of shows also the benefits of having a company like Bambu trying to lead the market, is just a day before the A1 was announced, Prusa was releasing an alpha firmware for the Prusa Mini, which allowed input shaping on the A1. Was that a coincidence?
No, it allowed input shaping on the Prusa Mini.
Sorry, my brain is already mush. It allowed input shaping on the Mini.
Well, I mean, technically it's the same thing, because the Minis and the Mark IV's input shaping is based on the Clipper code, and I would assume that the Bambu Lab stuff is also based on the Clipper code. So it's sort of the same.
Not.
Well, yeah, it's inspired. I don't want to make any false claims here.
No,
but so it's of course the math behind it is all well known and is all very similar. But the fact that Prusa released a mini alpha input shaping version that I tested in my last video, it is showing that they are struggling, that they're clawing at like every bit that they can get right now, to stay competitive, at least in the minds of people, and like features. What do we have that we can keep up with, basically?
But it's giving them the kick in the butt that I think they desperately needed for years to do this kind of innovation. I'm sure if for example, the X1 wouldn't have been released last year, we would not have had input shaping on the Mark IV. I'm sure. I'm also very sure that we wouldn't have input shaping on the Mini. And this is the good thing about competition on the market. It is already driving, and it will drive even more players out of the market due to that very hard competition. But it is also motivating others to innovate and try to improve their products, which is good for the consumer.
Yeah. In any case, it's going to give the consumers what they want, right? It's going to allow either by Bambu being the new go-to product, or by forcing everyone else to be like Bambu and to compete in the same way.
Yeah. The question is if this is just a short-term advantage and pushing other players off the market causes long-term negative effects, like, for example, open source is not a thing anymore. Innovation slows down in a way because innovation is just done by a company and not by a big group of people that might have totally different goals in the end. So I think short term, it's great what's happening. I'm just asking myself if we all will regret buying Bambu Lab machines in 5 years because there's nothing else on the market.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's look, it's have a look at GoPro and DJI. I think those are the two that come to mind here. Of course, Bambu Lab being DJI folks essentially, so they've got the same playbook going on. And DJI has become quite a bit more expensive than they used to be. They're not competing on prices as heavily anymore because they don't have to. They're the go-to solution. GoPro, on the other hand, is sort of slowing down with like what they're improving. Like I don't own any GoPro products, but from what I've been seeing, people have always been like, yeah, this GoPro 13, I think we're at right now, still has this and this and this issue, and it's not really that big of an upgrade versus the 12 or the 11, because they dominate this space. The interesting thing is now with GoPro, you've got DJI also competing with them in like the action cam market. But yeah, it is a consolidation. The products do get better very rapidly, but there may be a point where they do slow down. Though, is the end result better than what we would have gotten if we stayed with the DIY open source printers in the long run? I don't know.
I think for a large market, no, because
like look at Windows, right? They still have that segmentation. Windows, Apple, Mac OS, and Linux. Where you have that choice. You can buy a Mac, you can build or buy a machine that runs Windows, or you can go with Linux. But Linux, the open source platform, is like, it's been getting better, but it's still not good. It's still lacking so many things that the proprietary solutions do so much better.
It is lacking, and it's not as consumer friendly. It's a bit like, should you build a Voron, or should you take that money that a kit would cost to buy, for example, a fully built machine? Some might argue, yeah, in the end you can get more out of a Voron printer. You can tinker around yourself, but is that the large audience? Is that a big share of the market that looks for something like that? Yeah,
and ultimately, do you get? What I'm seeing with Windows versus Linux. So again, background, I think I've mentioned this before. I've run Linux like for 3 years exclusively, 15 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm going to convert. Like it was Windows Vista times where it was like, Windows sucks. Linux might be better. And like, there was a push. There was this thing like where, hey, you can use this now. And it was pretty good, but you eventually run into the limits of, these are the 10 most popular applications that you can use with Linux. And then everything beyond that just kind of doesn't work, or is a thing you have to tinker with. Even though it is a platform that is more capable and it gives you more opportunities, in the end you might not be able to achieve as much with it, because the things you have to do are more involved and require more of you. And it's similar with commercial easy 3D printers versus the DIY open source stuff, I feel like.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe we might get back to this conversation in a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, we're influencers, right? We can influence and steer where this is heading. But I don't know what the right direction to steer this into is.
My problem is I enjoy both. I enjoy the tinkering aspect and also the innovation that comes from open source. But when I am a user and just want to finish stuff, I totally enjoy if I just have a system that works and runs and is easy to use. So
I can't in good faith recommend to people that they build a Voron instead of getting a P1P. Unless they enjoy the process and unless they enjoy the fact that it is a more open and customizable machine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think one of the good things is, and I don't know if this is really something where we see a bit of a change again. I just had the GD Max 3 in the studio for a video, and they're using Clipper, for example, to run their machines. So it's a fully built machine. It works great. You have the profiles in their slightly adjusted version of Prusa Slice. So think about that, what you like. But just having that machine again running open source Clipper, it gives me the opportunity to tinker a bit with it if I like, but it's still working good if I don't want to tinker. The Magneto X from Peopoly we just talked about. I hope this is going to be, and I'm probably sure it's going to be a well-tuned machine in the end, but having maybe Clipper running on it, which also means that the control board that they're using gives you a bit of possibility to maybe plug in some other stuff, still gives you more of the opportunity to tinker around with, as for example on the Bambu machines where you have kind of a closed system. So maybe this might be something in between, not completely building something yourself, but if you want to change something in the end or tinker around, you still have kind of the opportunity or a possibility.
The thing is, for a manufacturer, it is easier to just say, hey, this is how we're going to do it, full stop, because it reduces the possibility for user error, which makes it just so much easier to support the machines.
Yeah.
We are though seeing some of the results of the, I don't want to say restructuring, but the changing tides, more or less. It's not uncommon that we see a shop shut down, but this is Caribou 3D that has shut down, and they, if I remember correctly, they initially were selling sort of Prusa conversion kits that upgraded your machines to be something that the stock machines didn't. And they eventually started selling their own full their own full printers. And now they're gone. 6 years of selling parts.
Selling parts and printers.
Yeah.
But if you read the article, they kind of write the times are changing. People, so they built their stuff I think in Germany, engineered their stuff in Germany, which makes it more expensive. And at some point, they had, I guess, problems just with their price, and so at some point it just didn't make sense for them anymore to cater to consumers. Caribou, I think they're still around, but they are now rather doing B2B stuff, working together with just like companies and not with consumers anymore in 3D printing. And I think this is kind of a change or something that we'll see more and more in the next couple of years, consolidation of the market. Smaller manufacturers who might have had a niche for a couple of years now might just be overrun by the competition.
Yeah. But again, consumers are getting what they want. Apparently, this is not what most people wanted. So they're going to refocus. So it might be that they keep selling parts. They are just a retailer essentially for existing brands that manufacture stuff. But from what I can tell, they're not going to be selling their printers to consumers anymore, which reasonable choice. I mean, selling to consumers is hard, which is why I never attempted to do it. You managed to do it with your inserts. But I'm just like, I'm not touching that.
Yeah.
So I truly hope they find a way to keep doing business here, because anything, as many parties, as many competitors, and as many different ideas that we have in a 3D printing space, the more of them we have, the better. New York. We've talked about Caribou. We've talked about the input shaping on the Mini, which isn't very good. New York.
New York wants to take away our 3D printers.
Well, no, not take away. I guess you could sort of, but.
So every now and then we have discussions how 3D printed firearms can be produced on 3D printers so easily, and what the danger of that is. And there is a bill in New York, which doesn't mean that it's a law yet, but it's a proposal to require background checks if you want to purchase 3D printers. And I think if you're reading it properly, for every computer-controlled machine that can produce three-dimensional parts, which you could use to produce firearms.
For purposes of this section, three-dimensional printer means a computer or computer-driven machine or device capable of producing a three-dimensional object from a digital model. So a computer that would be capable of producing a 3D. So is this applying to like laptops as well?
Everything.
You could read it like that. But yeah, essentially I guess what they're saying with this is you treat the 3D printer like you treat buying a 3D printer like you treat buying a gun.
Yeah.
I don't know what the requirements are for purchasing firearms in New York, but that's sort of what I'm reading from this. And I mean, I get where they're coming from, right? I get that a 3D printer could be used to produce anything, right? But there's, it's like, somebody commented like, "Hey, have you ever taken a walk through the piping section at Home Depot?" It's not just 3D printers if you want to take it from that angle. I've got a lathe,
a mill, a laser cutter,
a jigsaw, like a drill press. Like any of those tools could be used to create a device that is capable of firing bullets in some way or another.
Yeah. I have expected that something like that pops up at some point. As we initially said, this is just a bill, and it just has one, I think it's called sponsor there. So it's not something that is currently hugely popular, but I think this will be a discussion we will have more and more in the next years. And if a 3D printer would be called a device to produce a firearm in Germany, I don't know. We probably wouldn't be able to buy 3D printers anymore if you don't have already a gun license or a gunsmith license.
Oh, well, good luck getting one of those. Forget about it.
But I'm also asking myself, is there a way around that? There have, of course, been discussions. Can slicers somehow implement algorithms that could detect if there are parts on the printing platform that shouldn't be printed? Similar to if you put your a money bill into your photocopier, it will not copy that. But in the end, I think that is hardly possible, especially with like the open software that we have nowadays. So
you would need to. So first of all, like you're saying, open software, sure. From that standpoint, any printer that prints G-code, like there's no way to regulate like what sort of G-code it's printing. Yeah. And also from the standpoint of detecting stuff, like you can't, even AI algorithms are not going to be able to detect every possible 3D model that could be a gun or gun part, which is also what this bill proposal is sort of suggesting. So any gun part or gun accessory, whatever it's called, a printer capable of producing that. So even if you're just building or printing, I don't know, a grip shell or something, which is completely non-lethal, like you can toss it at somebody and it's going to hurt, but like
cosplay props,
exactly, like there are, I'm sure there are parts that are shared between a cosplay 1911 and the real one. Like those parts are absolutely identical in the end, but one fires bullets and one doesn't, but you can't tell. So I don't know. In good intent, probably. Like I don't want to assume malicious intent here, but misguided at least.
I'm sure we will discuss that again in the future. I hope that this bill is not gonna pass, because that would be really bad for 3D printing.
It would be bad precedent, It
would be bad precedent, and you can be sure that other states and other countries might think about implementing something similar in the near future, and that would basically kill my job, kill my hobby, kill my audience.
Not literally, but figuratively. Hopefully, well, okay, I'm not going there, but which is, again, looping back to drones and DJI and stuff. It has a similar law like that with the 250 gram rule, has already mostly killed off model aviation, model airplanes. Anything that is above 250 grams, pretty much around the world now, requires a pilot's license or a commercial license, depending on where you are. Which means, the old school model pilots that built like 4-meter wingspan models, like good luck. Nobody's going to be building or flying those anymore, because it's a huge hassle to just be allowed to get them up in the air.
Yes. Well, it's a hassle to bring them up in the air if you're not on a dedicated airfield. If you have been part of a flying club before, you will still be able to fly them in these like restricted areas and things like that, but it's not as nice and easy and uncontrolled as it was in the past.
Exactly. Like there is a chilling effect, and you can already observe that just, for example, the market for parts. You can't buy, or it's getting much harder to even buy parts that are intended for larger model aircraft, and that includes both quadcopters, drones, as they're commonly called, and actual airplanes, because those also fall under the classification of like it's above 250 grams, so you need special licenses. Yeah. Which actually has me wondering, sidetracked here, Zeppelins. So how much do they weigh?
A lot. Let's see, a Zeppelin. So I basically live next to one of the only Zeppelin airports in the world.
No, but the question really is, are they above or below 250 grams?
Well, a Zeppelin is probably above 249 grams.
But it's, if you put it on a scale, it doesn't weigh anything.
Ooh.
Like, you see where I'm going with this? Like, it has enough lift to, like, how much does a helium balloon weigh? It weighs like -5 grams or something.
Well, the question is if it is dry weight without any fuel and gases.
Nah, it's always going to be takeoff weight. I mean, you put your battery in a drone, and it counts towards the weight as well. So you put your battery and you put your fuel gas in the Zeppelin. I'm just wondering, like, this might be a loophole. You put up like a 10-meter Zeppelin. You fly it as a drone, and it's like, yeah, it's under 250 grams. Like, look, it floats. It doesn't technically weigh anything. If somebody has an answer for that, please leave us a comment below or tweet at us at the Meltzone, or exit us, I guess. That's just something I've been wondering recently.
Okay.
Random thoughts.
We should check that out. Staying kind of on a similar topic, which scares me as well, is that a fellow 3D printing YouTuber, the 3D Print General, recently got like completely deleted from YouTube.
Yeah.
Similar to what we just talked about recently is that a year or two ago, he started doing a couple of videos on 3D printed firearms, and there were some also discussions with YouTube if he can monetize these videos, but some of them were cleared, some of them were deleted. But at some point, I think half a year ago, he said, okay, I don't want to have any 3D printed firearm videos anymore on the channel. So he made a second one, I think the 3D Pew General, uploaded all of the firearm stuff there, and there was nothing anymore left on his main channel.
Yeah.
And just recently, after he applied to get verified for his 100,000 subscriber badge, he, I think, got striked again for an old video where he did a documentary on the history of firearms, and that escalated so quickly that at some point just his whole channel was deleted. And the interesting thing at the moment is, or this has, or I think already happened like 2 weeks ago, he basically gets ghosted by YouTube, and this is really concerning. This is really concerning because I'm even outside of the whole, hey, this might have been just on the edge of like the YouTube's terms of services, etc. At this point, it wasn't. Like he said, he was completely clean. I'm air quoting here for those people just listening to us. His channel was completely clean. He deleted all the old stuff that could be questionable in any way, shape, or form on that channel. And just out of the blue, it was like, yeah, by the way, we're deleting your channel now. He appealed, and they were like, nah, we're gonna stick with it. And the thing when you're dealing with one of those mega platforms is like, what are you gonna do? Like, there's no way to speak to an actual person. Well, there are the YouTube partner managers, right? If you're above a certain size, like somebody reaches out and they're like, hey, you want to schedule a session every now and then, we can talk about your channel. And there's sort of your personal point of contact, and they might be able to resolve something like that if they're willing enough or whatever. But if you don't have one of those, or if you're a smaller channel, like there's really nothing you can do. You're at the what's the term here? Ausgeliefert. You're just
at their mercy. You're at the mercy of YouTube, whether they want to keep you around or not. And if they or some algorithm or some underpaid reviewer of channels decides, yeah, we're not gonna, I don't know, not feeling it today, we're gonna delete that channel, you're just gone. That's it. And for you, that is, that risk even though both you and me, we are very adamant about not touching any even slightly questionable stuff on our channels. That risk is still there. Like, hey, what if 3D printers get a bad rep and it's like, yeah, these are gun producing tools now. They might just be like, yeah, we're going to have to delete your channels. Sorry.
And that doesn't only get rid of your YouTube ad revenue, that gets rid of your sponsors that paid your video, that gets rid of your platform, which you used for affiliate marketing and everything. So just from one day to another, everything that you have built up for over the years is just gone, and you can't do anything about that.
Yeah. If you're putting your eggs into that one basket, it comes with a certain risk, and especially, you know, it might not just be the YouTube channel, it might be the entire Google account that gets deleted for breach of terms of service or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you've got your emails tied to that, if you've got logins tied to that, you are solidly screwed. So yeah, don't put your eggs in one basket, but also you kind of have to, because the algorithm rewards people who commit to a platform and who regularly upload, who don't spread their audience thin over multiple platforms. Like,
and the thing is, YouTube is like a monopoly. Of course, there are Odyssey and Rumble, but in monetary terms, you can use these sites as backup, but you won't really have an audience there which is paying your bill in the end, and this is like really unfortunate.
And so yeah, like what I said, both you and me, we are very aware of the sort of content that we can produce and cannot produce, and it does create a chilling effect, right? Even if we're not getting slapped on the wrist for uploading something that might be considered harmful or whatever, we just censor ourselves to say, like, yeah, this is not something we can cover. This is not something we're gonna touch at all. It's just, even if there's no action being taken on us, this still shifts what the allowable topics are, and the topics that are being covered. So it's a more complex issue than just the 3D printing general getting deleted. It's affecting everyone, even if they're not riding that edge.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the only thing that we can really do is trust in the YouTube overlords, that this doesn't happen to us. Try to diversify ourselves, that we're not just depending on one platform, which is kind of impossible.
Exactly.
If this monopoly exists. Yeah, I would hope for Sean that he gets his channel and YouTube account and everything back, but from what has happened the last weeks, especially, just him being ghosted by YouTube is concerning. Yeah,
you see, you realize that they've got all the strings in their hand, and you're at their mercy. And sort of tying into this, who has also gone offline is Naomi Wu, at Real Sexy Cyborg. Not because YouTube ended up nuking her, but as I understand it, it's a mix of everything. But like China, she was in a similar position where there's a, like, you can sort of stretch what's sort of allowed, and usually it's like it's okay. But I guess she was just a bit too non-conservative, non-traditional, too far outside of what's considered like okay and kosher. And eventually it was like, by the way, you're not going to happen online anymore. I don't know who made that call, but damn.
Yeah, this is really concerning, and we we haven't heard anything from her for the last 3 or 4 months. The last like Twitter post that she still made was.
By the way, you're sort of talking into your mic sideways. Push it out the side a bit.
Okay.
There you go.
She basically says that she got her wings clipped. And they weren't gentle about that. So as Tom just said, she probably can't be on YouTube and Twitter anymore for the moment. She would have the possibility to leave China, but her girlfriend is not able to do that. So I think she decided to stay with her and just needs to comply with the rules these days.
Yeah. So what do you do at that point? Do you just become a consultant for like local companies? I mean, she's been working with Creality in the past.
Yeah.
Do you do that? I mean, yeah.
I don't know. Of course, this is one thing, but also, of course, on the other hand, we as a country and as makers, and both of us, we're also working a lot with other Chinese companies. And how does something like that affect our actions that we do these days? Should we be more cautious? Should we try to, I don't know, work more with local companies?
Well, what do you mean? Be more cautious? Work less with Chinese companies? Because I mean,
the question,
how
I think
is that
this is
going to
something
affect us?
I think one of the questions that is always around, how much influence does, for example, the Chinese government has on Chinese companies? So if we are working with these companies, we kind of, I think it's always a bit on a knife edge. We are kind of depending on them. Our economy is depending on China, and for the most part, I have made good experiences with these companies. But if you see things like that happening, I'm kind of questioning myself what that means for the actions that I do, because in a way,
right.
We are basically we're basically investing in this country with purchasing stuff and goods from there.
True, but do we have a choice?
No, we don't have a choice.
That's the thing, right?
No, we don't. That's one of the problems, and I think sometimes we need to question what we do and what actions like this mean, and if this is kind of just a slow thing that is getting worse and worse, or if has it always been like this? As I said, I usually have good relations with companies in China, but I don't know what they know. It's a different culture.
Yeah.
And we couldn't exist, and we couldn't work, and we couldn't produce anything if it wasn't for these companies.
Yeah. And it's this is a whole Pandora's box that we're opening up here.
No, don't want to open that.
We've got plenty of devices that run firmware that you don't know what it's able to do in our home networks. Every single person has these devices now. Your vacuum robot, starting with that, and I think there's some risk involved with that, and it's just what amount of risk and dependency on actors that maybe we don't quite agree with. How much do we want to accept, and how much do we have to accept too?
Yeah.
It's the same as with buying from companies locally, even here, that we're like, yeah, I don't agree with what you do or how you do things, but you're still making the best product, so I'm still gonna buy it. But like, screw you, Nvidia. Like, you know, it's that same chokehold basically that we're in. These two cases, I feel like just again show how dependent we are on being allowed to do what we do. And there's a switch that can be flipped, and all of a sudden, like, you're deplatformed. Good luck getting out of that.
Yeah. Quite of a sad topic at the end.
God.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that maybe that's a little bit of an uplifting topic. This next weekend, I'm getting to install some more solar.
Even more. You already have 30 kilowatt peak.
Not here. This is 30 kilowatt is all I'm allowed to do. I'm installing another 10 kilowatts at my dad's. So my dad has like a duplex, triplex centerpiece house, and we've got some crazy roof shapes there that we have to work around. But that's currently being worked on, and we're doing some really cool solutions there. With 100% Chinese solar panels and inverters. But it's amazing how much that stuff has come down in price. Yes, we do have another dependency on China there. But you can get so we're currently at, I think, just over 10 grand for a 10 kilowatt solar system plus a 10 kilowatt hour battery storage. So that's Victron and Pylon for the battery and battery inverters, and Heumiles single module inverters or Modulwechselrichter everywhere else. And it's a super crazy setup. We've got lots of custom solutions. If it was a much simpler setup, it would be even cheaper. That is amazing that he can do it so cheaply now. And it's kind of, that's making me happy that he can just check it on there for an apple and an eye.
Yeah. An apple and an egg.
Yeah.
Still one project for me. I actually wanted to do this year, but I think I won't be able to finish it anymore. I also need to put at least like another 4 kilowatt peak on my garage just to feed my hungry electric car. But even with like the 7 kilowatt peak that we have on our roof, we haven't used basically a single watt from the grid for the last 5 months.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming, but it's still amazing. With an EV, I already did like 4,500 kilometers on the Tesla. Full house, 3 people there, workstation, everything, dehumidifiers in the basement.
Same
7 kilowatt peak on the roof. We have been like needing nothing from the grid for the last 5 months.
It's pretty amazing. And with prices coming down so far, I've even got buddies considering just putting a north-facing solar setup on their roofs because they've got the space there. It's easy to install, and the stuff's so cheap that you can just chuck like 6 grand of solar panels up there, and it pays for itself within 4 years.
Yeah, I'm actually considering.
Then you're making money on that from there on out. So
I'm actually considering putting panels at my wall on my wall. It's east-facing. But
east facing. I've done the math on like a straight vertical south facing, and that actually works out pretty nicely because you get almost the exact same amount of energy during the summer and during winter. If you just have vertical south facing. I don't know about east facing though.
The idea is that during winter time we very regularly have snow, and if there's just a tiny bit of snow on our panels on the roof and wherever we have them, we get nothing. The idea with those fully vertical panels is that they can't get covered in snow, so I especially want them for winter to run at least the home appliances, maybe charge the battery a little bit in the winter. Don't know if it's really worth the effort and money, but I personally just
it would be so
enjoy
cool,
using my own energy.
Yeah, same here. Man, what I would really love to do, and I think this falls slightly outside the scope of even the rebranded channel, is just to build like not a tiny house, but like a reasonably small house. Just do it stick framed, do it with hemp wool insulation. Laura Kampf has been doing that with her Fachwerkhaus. Just doing or just not hemp wool, Steiko, wood wool, cellulose, and just build it in a way that is sustainable, that runs off its own energy. I've looked at prices for heat pumps recently. They cost like $4,000 now for a basic unit. You could build it so intelligently and so self-sufficient with so little effort these days. That would be something that I would love to do. I currently don't have the time or the correct opportunity to do that, but if it comes up, like I'd be all in for that. Just do like a, I don't know, 50 square meter, 60 square meter house. Build a Pultdach, single slope roof, south facing. Just build something in a smart way, and it's that would be a fun project.
Yeah, maybe you can find a sponsor for that.
Yeah, Steiko, if you wanna sponsor something there, feel free to reach out.
Yeah. All right.
We got the ship turned around very well.
Yeah.
So
after 2 hours now.
Yeah. Well, 1:42 the time is, and we still have to do the intro.
Yeah.
Perfect. We should do these episodes more regularly.
Yeah, we always say that.
Though on the other hand, I'm listening to Methodisch Incorrect. And they've switched from a bi-weekly, which means every 2 weeks, but it can also mean twice every week. But they've switched from every 2 weeks to every single week. And they were like, yeah, we're going to do the episodes a bit shorter, but they still do like 3-hour episodes. So I'm like, guys, I appreciate listening to you guys, but like every 2 weeks was fine. Every week is a bit too much, maybe. Yeah, but we could do a little more and still not be too much, I think.
Yeah.
So thank you, Stefan, sorry, I'm already reaching for stuff to fiddle around with, so it's time to quit. Thank you to Stefan for finding the time again. That is titanium, it looks like. There we go. It just doesn't focus.
It's not focusing.
We're reaching for the fiddle toys. So thank you, Stefan, for taking the time. Thank you all for listening. If you want to support us, you can find the Patreon links in the description below. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. Anything I forgot? Check out the sponsor. Check out Magneto X in the description below. I'm looking forward to trying the one out that I'm getting hopefully next month.
Cool.
That's it.
We hope to see you guys soon.
Yeah, maybe at one of the coming conventions. SMRFF, Stefan's going to be at Formnext. That's going to be cool. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.